Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I have the pleasure of speaking with John Bradford, who joins us. He's the CEO and founder of Petscreening. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
Natalie, thank you so much for having me on your show.
I'm really excited to hear all about Petscreening, and obviously just looking at your background and your outfit. I mean, clearly you love dogs.
I'll tell you what, pets are, I've learned that pets are not controversial. Everybody loves pets. So it's a good place to be, Natalie. It really is.
I think that definitely adds to the positive mental health environment that you guys work in. Tell me a little bit more about the company and what you do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so a little bit about Petscreening. So we're a software platform. When I was getting my MBA, they were like, the name of your company should say it all. So we screen pets, pet screening. And it's not in a punitive way. We just make sure that pet owners understand that there are rules that they need to adhere to when they're moving into, say, a rental property. So if you think of maybe flats, as they call them where you are, but apartments here in the US, if you're moving to an apartment and you'd have a dog or a cat, or even if you don't have a dog or a cat, there's still rules that you need to follow. So we're a SaaS product. It's a managerial platform that landlords use to just make sure that if they have any policies about pets, everything from size, maybe there's some breed restrictions. We don't advocate for breed restrictions. We should probably talk about that in your show. But sometimes breed restrictions are there, and if they have them, our platform can help manage it. And we just collect a lot of information to make sure that the landlord knows, what exactly they're getting to ready to accept into their platform. But as a pet owner, also, I want to make sure that pet owners have a shot to bring their pets to housing. So we're really trying to drive pet inclusivity into housing across the country, and our platform really works to do both of those.
And how did you come up with that idea? Is it something that you came up with on your own? Do you have a
Yeah.
co-founder?
No, it's just me. So a little bit about me. I was raised by a mom and dad who very, very pet friendly. My mother was the person in the neighborhood where if someone found like a baby bird or a baby squirrel or rabbit, my mom would just like take them in and feed them with the little bottle feeder. So all my life I've been surrounded by pets, and so I have that instinct. I love pets. But I also own real estate. And so I'm a landlord, and I understand that pets are just another living thing in your unit. And so inherently, no different than people, right? People bring risk. They can tear up a property. They can do a lot of things to a property, but pets are another element of risk. And I just thought, well, it'd be great to manage this. And I'm an engineer, so a little bit about me. I studied engineering in college. I don't think I have the personality of an engineer, so I got out of engineering and got into sales and started buying real estate with my sales commissions. And that's how I got into the real estate game. And then, of course, being pet friendly, I always allowed pets at my own assets, if you will. And one day we had a dog bite incident, and it was rare. Like I had more experiences with no dog bites than having dog bites, but it can happen. And in this instance, it was a visiting dog that shouldn't have even been there. And my insurance company had to come in and settle it, and it made me take a step back and say, what could I have done better as a property manager and a landlord to manage that risk? And the idea of pet screening was kind of born because people who don't have pets still need to know that they're not allowed to have visiting pets, because visiting pets can also, bite. And so I created this idea of a product to help someone just like me, someone who owned real estate, someone who wanted to be pet friendly, but wanted to make sure there was a consistent way to manage the policy so that everyone knows the rules. And if you live in a property and you're not supposed to have any visiting pets, well, then hopefully you follow the rules and then you won't have any visiting pets. And in my instance, a dog bite would have never happened because that person would have never had a visiting pet. And it was just so simple as just getting a platform for property managers to use. And that's how it all kind of started. Just an idea from a problem that I had and there was nothing out there like it. I mean, I created a category, which is kind of strange to say. Pet screening is now very second nature in the business here, at least here in the U.S. It's really amazing to see our journey across the last 9 years.
So you had this great idea. There was a real use case behind it. You knew that others would experience the same challenges and have a similar, you know, thought process around wanting to be more pet friendly. What was the next step for you? Did you talk to people about it? Talk me through that journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was in sales at a little company called IBM, and buying real estate, and started a property management company. So before starting Petscreening, I had a property management company, which really grew out of other people just like me who worked at big companies, wanted to start a portfolio of assets as a way to build wealth outside the stock market. And I started helping people buy assets as rentals, and then I started managing for them. So I sort of created this property management business out of a journey of just doing it for myself, and then started to do it for others. And I grew that to a pretty sizable company in the Southeast. And of course, I described the dog bite incident, which is true. And all while doing this, well, I don't want to get political, but I did get a political career going. I started a town council. And then next thing I know, I'm serving in the North Carolina House of Representatives. And that's germane to this discussion because in North Carolina, because I was a property manager, and I still am, in fact, a property manager to this day. I keep all my licenses and certifications. But I carried all of North Carolina's tenant landlord law. So I really understand the rights that tenants have and residents, but I also understand landlord rights. And one thing that happens here in the US, and it is relatively unique to our country, although you may have this in UK, you can tell me, but we have people that sometimes need reasonable accommodations for assistance animals. So service animals, emotional support animals. And while there are people, Natalie, that really need these animals for sure, there's a group of people that try to pass their ordinary pets off as a type of assistance animal, and they do that for a reason. They do it because they don't want to pay pet related fees. So if they don't want to pay a pet fee, they'll just say, well, my dog is an emotional support animal. And when I was serving in the House of Representatives, my phone would ring off the hook. They'd say, call Representative Bradford if you're frustrated around ESAs. He's a property manager. He knows the law. He can help you. And what I learned was people don't understand the law around this. So when I started Petscreening, we also made sure part of our service is to make sure that people who are seeking reasonable accommodations for a service animal or emotional support animal, they actually meet the standard. So when I started Petscreening, you ask how we got started, there was no better way than to let my own company be its own guinea pig, right? What's that old saying? Pig ate out of its own trough. And so my company was the very first user of Petscreening. And we started there, and my team really loved it. In fact, I didn't tell my team that I was the founder of Petscreening because I had done it on the side, because I was afraid they would not tell me if it really stunk or not, if they knew I were right. And so I was very careful and deliberate about even telling them that this was my product or idea, because I truly had grown it completely separate. And I just told them that I found a product that I thought would help us manage pets and emotional support animals better. And they loved it. And so then I started calling my friends in the industry, and a few friends started using it. They were like, where in the heck did you get time to do this? And I'm like, well, I like to work a lot. And that's how it all started. I mean, I bootstrapped it with my own money. I put my money where my mouth is. That's sort of one of my things I like to say. If you have an idea, you got to go for it. And so I did it. And now it's crazy. We have, one out of every 7 long-term rentals in the country, in the US, is on the pet screening platform. The United States military uses us at several bases, manufactured housing, which are like mobile home parks. Sometimes they're called student housing, senior housing, affordable housing, multifamily housing, single family. So if you have a roof over someone else's head and you probably take pets, because I think most people do these days, then Petscreening is a platform, not to mention that we're free. We don't cost landlords a single penny. So that makes it fun too. So that's how I got started, my own company.
So you said it's free for
It is.
landlords. So
It is.
how are you making money?
Very. You can imagine the number of times we could ask that question. So the landlord integrates our product into their workflow for people who are applying to live there, right? And If someone has an ordinary pet, which I call a traditional dog, cat, sometimes birds and bunnies, because we see those too, then they will pay people call it a pet application fee of sorts, but they pay a fee to go through our platform. And of course, the person who's paying the fee is the applicant. So the landlord, no cost to them, they say we use this product, therefore you have to go through the product. And people with pets will pay a nominal fee to use our service. And then we collect a lot of information on the pet and the pet parent. One thing I've learned, and I think you'd agree with me, I know you have a dog for all your listeners.
Yeah.
So, she does border poo, which is a border collie and a poodle mix. Is that right? That's what we talked about.
Yeah, we call them bordoodles, but yeah,
Oh, bordoodles, forgive me.
we call them collie poos as well, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what about that. I just made up a new dog, a bordy poo. Maybe that's a cockapoo with a bordy. I don't know. But most certainly we collect a lot of data on pets. But the real problem I've learned through the years are the pet parents, right? The pet parents, how they take care of their dogs. If you put me in a bedroom and close the door on me, I'd probably pee on your floors too, because guess what? I can't let myself out. I have paws. I can't open the door. And so it's really about pet owners making sure that they're taking their dogs out regularly so they don't use the bathroom in the house, or a cat owner to make sure that you don't close the laundry room door with a cat box in it. Next thing you know, once a cat starts urinating somewhere else, they might return to that. So we see that pet parents are a big part of the problem. So our whole software analyzes the pet parent as much as the pet. And here in the US, we have a thing called the FICO score. I don't know if you have those where you are. What it says your credit worthiness.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, you would know if so here, FICO score is your credit score. I trademarked the FIDO score. So we give a FIDO score on every pet parent and pet together. And the FIDO score is not intended to predict if a dog is good or bad or a cat is good or bad. It's about showing how much risk that the landlord is taking with that pet parent and that pet. So just to make it an easy context for your listeners to understand, if you have a puppy, a boxer puppy, boxers are great dogs, but they're very energetic. They're very energetic. But a boxer puppy that's a male is going to be a hyper little thing. It's going to be peeing on your floors, chewing on your baseboards. Our FIDO score would just indicate there's a little more risk for a landlord, and therefore they might want to charge a little more pet fees to cover the risk that they. And so the FIDO score is trying to help everyone understand what risk they're taking. And a lot of our clients use that score, but the pet parents pay for the fee. And that's how the revenue is generated by the pet owner on behalf of the landlord to better know what they're dealing with.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the context of how it works.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah, we have credit scores, but that not necessarily the same as you, but same sort of process. So going back to the beginning, obviously you already had a successful career in sales. You came from an engineering background. You did all the political work as well as your property business, and then started building Petscreening. So were you actually building the software yourself, or did you work with other engineers to help you build it?
Yeah, no, I am. Look, it was funny when I went to IBM. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I guess I'm a relationship guy. So I think when you're in sales, you build a good relationship, you have a good brand, a good product. I think the rest works itself out. I do not claim to be a technician. I mean, I most certainly had the idea, the concept. I felt like this would be a great solution. So I went and found some technology talent. So
Great.
my journey was just, because I was bootstrapping it, I wasn't ready to go pay for a full-time engineer to work for me. So I went and found a company that basically developed products for startups. And so that's what I did in Charlotte, and found one, and they developed our MVP. And I'm very proud to say 9 years later, our product today is, really very similar to the MVP we launched, because I feel like we nailed it. I mean, of course, we'd added functionality, and we're a much bigger company, but from the way the product was built, like, we really landed the plane, which was good.
Mm, mm. And so with those sort of early days, that transition from, running your property management business to kind of going for it with pet screening, talk me through that process.
Well, look, it's hard to be excellent in a bunch of things, right? It just is. And, so I didn't want to I was starting to spread myself out pretty thin. I had my property management company. I was in leadership in the House of Representatives. Married, had 4 kids, still married and still have 4 kids. And starting a startup, there was a lot going on. And so I had an opportunity to make an exit on my property management company. I thought that was what was best for my employees. It was not fair to them because I really wasn't investing the financial resources into that company. I used to buy a lot of other property management companies, and that's how I was using capital. But now all my capital was really being put into Petscreening to grow it. So it felt like a good time to exit that. So I found a buyer actually came to me. I wasn't even looking for a buyer. So I think the timing was serendipitous. It was great. And I saw a good opportunity to sell it. And what's beautiful is all my employees at the time, when they went to that new company, which was a startup in the property management shop, they all got equity. So they all were taken care of because that was very important to me. I wanted them to feel like this sale was as meaningful to them as it was to me. And then at that point, I just focused on family. I was still in the legislature. I just finished in the legislature last December. So what, 10 months ago? And we're a 9-year-old company. So as you can see, I tend to try to burn candle from both ends. But I love it, and I'm not complaining about it at all. I am out of the legislature now, so this is the first time I've been full-time CEO of my own company, which is kind of strange to say, but it's true. And so I'm having a great time. I mean, I'm going to, we'll do 110 trade shows this year, 110. And I can't, yeah, I can't go to all of them, of course. But I bet you I've done, 35 or 40 this year myself. I mean, it's just crazy.
Goodness. That is a lot of trade shows.
It is. It is. Yes. And think about it. We're going to manufactured housing trade shows. We're going to student housing trade shows. We're going to multifamily. It's just all these different verticals have trade shows. So you go to the ones that make sense, and it's a lot. It adds up.
So coming from a brand like IBM, where pretty much everyone that you speak to knows who you are,
Of course.
how was the sales process different when you were setting up Petscreening? I mean, obviously you started with your network, which is always the kind of slightly open door. But how did you then transition to kind of getting into companies that didn't know who you were or didn't know anything about the company?
Well, I mean, look, I've always considered myself, and even the company too, is I think a company often mirrors the way the founder maybe leads it, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. We're kind of just scrappy hustlers. We spend every dollar like it's our last dollar. I mean, that's just kind of the way we operate. That's been wise for us. And so, we're hungry, and we had a solution. We had a solution that was no cost. We had a solution that had a proven benefit. Here, and I hate to always distinguish U.S. because I don't. Those are the laws I know, and I know you have listeners all over the world. But here in the U.S., when people try to, use the system and say they have a service animal and they're faking it, that harms a lot of people. Harms the disability community because people who really need those service animals, their reputation gets harmed. Of course, landlords, if they accept the fake animal, they can't charge any pet fees. And we stop those fake actors. They're called bad actors. We stop them, and there's a real benefit to landlords for that. And then I say it's free. And so the hardest part was just people to say, "Now, what are you?" And then they thought, I don't know. Yeah, you have this in your country. I know. There's a company called Poo Prints. They do DNA testing on dog poop.
Mm, yeah.
And they have I know the CEO, and they do business there in UK, because he's often talked about Petscreening maybe doing UK business as well. We're just not ready for that yet. But the point is, when they heard Petscreening, people instantly thought we did DNA testing for dog poop. They thought we were a competitor to that other company. And so I had to kind of explain to people, no, while Poop Prints is a great product and a great service, we're on the front end, they're on the back end. And that's kind of the way I would describe it, right? Literally, they're handling on the back. I handle on the front end, and then and so for the first couple of years though, in the multifamily industry specifically, people like Petscreen, and you must do DNA. I'm like, no, we don't. And they're like, well, what do you do? And we took them through what we did. They're like, oh my god, this is incredible. And eventually we had a few people took a bet on us, and I really appreciate them. And to this day, I think of one guy, Matt DeGraw, who's with Bridge Property Management. They have 70, at the time they had like 65, 70,000 units. And Matt heard me on a pitch contest at a conference. It wasn't pitch for money. It was just pitch for new products, and someone won the award. And it just so happened that, I don't know, maybe I was naive, and they gave me 2 minutes. I said, I'll do it. I hopped on stage. I pitched Petscreening in front of this audience of people. We won the award. And I tend to stand at trade show booths till the lights go off. Like, I stay there to the bitter end. I think that's good policy, by the way. You spend all this honest what's in there. Let me tell you what, that was a very good thing that I did it, because this guy, Matt DeGraw, who's president of Bridge, who's an amazing human being, he came by the booth and the lights, I'm literally, it was like, they were probably starting to go dim. And he's like, "Oh, I wanted to come see you. I saw you on the stage." He's like, "Do you have a card? I want to learn more about your product." And I said, "Well, here's my card. Do you have one?" And of course, he gave me the old, "No, I don't have a card. I don't know who this guy is. Never hear from him." He said, "I'll email you from the airplane, blah, blah, blah." I'm 3 hours later, I got an email from him, and then I see who he was, president of this big company. And it was a month later, I signed up their entire portfolio. And that was big bets, like, from a company that just, I don't know, they trusted what we did, they liked what we did. And then after that, it starts to go. And we worked really hard to get there, and we're having a lot of fun. And I don't know, it's just, I'm very thankful and appreciative of all the people that have given us a shot.
Well, it sounds like you guys have worked really hard for it. And I agree, the hustling, having, spent many a year on
Yeah.
doing trade shows and, being there to the bitter end and seeing people next to me pack up and leave 2 hours earlier, which I always think is bonkers.
Well,
Um,
it is, you're right. And if their company management knew they were making that investment to send all those people and they're ducking out early,
mm.
I don't know, just doesn't make sense to me.
It's not good business. But
It just
so tell me, as you started to kind of build the company, and I know just by sort of seeing the environment that you're in that you obviously have a really positive, um, friendly team that you work around. But tell me about how you built the team and what were your priorities in terms of functions and job roles as you
Yes.
built out the team.
So a couple things, like, I lead by example. I mean, my parents raised me. I come from pretty humble beginnings. I wouldn't ever characterize me being raised as poor. It wasn't that, but most certainly we did not take fancy vacations. The house I was raised in is half the size of one floor to my current home. But it never felt small to me. I guess that was that fishbowl syndrome, right? You kind of adapt. But what I did learn from my mom and dad was be kind. Um, it doesn't cost you anything extra to be kind. Work hard, and don't look for handouts. Look for a hand up, but not a handout. There's a big difference. And so I think that foundation has always stuck with me. My parents are the hardest working people that I know. And I have that in me. And I would never ask anyone to do anything I wouldn't do myself. My other company, the one that I sold, this shows they would say tight, cheap. I would say fiscal conservative. I was so fiscally conservative that I didn't want to hire cleaners. So once a week, we'd close the office 2 hours early and we'd all clean the place together. Um, and I did it because well, why not? Let's just do it together. I always clean the toilets. I never had anyone else do it. I did it because I thought, if I clean the toilets and put on those yellow gloves and did it every week that I was in town, if I was traveling, somebody else would have to do it. Then at least my employees would know that he's willing to do what which, I would just call it the dirtiest job, right? And I think there's something about that. So at Petscreening, I try to lead by example. There's nothing here I won't do. I put up the trade show booths. I'm sweating like everybody else, putting it up. I'm taking it down. I'm slapping a label on it. I pull it to the FedEx store, UPS store. And we have 3 core values here. It's very important to me to, like, I didn't wanna just have core values, like, up on a spreadsheet or a pitch deck, because I think that's what happens, and you say you have them, but I really ask our team to hold me accountable to make sure we live by them, and our core values are pretty simple. Everyone deserves an opportunity. We have people here, some didn't go to college, their life means didn't provide that, but they're hard workers. We have a young man with Down syndrome who works here. He went to a certificate program at a college and got a 2-year certificate, and he works here as one of our office specialists. So everyone deserves an opportunity. I believe in that. When we have promotions or opportunities to advance, we always post it to the whole company, and people most certainly can apply because we do try to promote within before we go externally. So that's one core value. Another core value is make your mark. I mean, I think it's probably implied to please make a positive mark, because I think if you make a negative one, I'd have to move you out quickly. But we want you to come here and make your mark. Like, leave your paw prints. There's a pun for you. Leave your paw prints all over this baby and make a difference. Help us be better. Everyone can do that. Everyone, no matter what you do in the organization. And the last one is laugh more and have fun. I think you have to enjoy what you do. I tell people, get a nice car. You'll be in a car a lot. You might as well be comfortable. Get a really great mattress because you need a good night's sleep. And work so you want to work, because that's where you're going to spend a lot of your time, a lot of your colleagues. So we like to laugh around here and have some fun. If you're not going to do that, then it's not worth it. And so that kind of is the way we drive this ship. And it radiates like it just does. And then plus we allow dogs in the office. Hello, people want to work here, bring their dogs. But yeah, that's what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, as a remote worker myself, I have my dog in my office every day, but I always think it's great to be in an environment where you can bring your pet to work. It just makes it a little bit more high energy. But it sounds like you've built a great team there. What's been the biggest challenge for you along that journey?
Well, I mean, any startup that says, "Oh, we didn't really have any," they're not being truthful. We've had tons of. We always have challenges. We have challenges now. I think people are your greatest asset, which also means that people can be challenging. Just as you grow, sometimes sometimes it's okay to say that you might outgrow someone, meaning perhaps the organization has changed, and that does bring challenging times when you think that you have to make a change in direction and and so those are challenges. I just think that's hard. That's the people issue. We're in a highly regulated space when it comes to assistance animals. And so, being a former legislator, I'm very confident in that area, but it takes work to keep up with changing regulations at federal levels and here in the US as well as state laws. And those change all the time. And so we are committed to manage those, and so we really have to pay attention there. Some of the earlier challenges was just, I told you, like, the name confusion. People thought we tested dog poop, and we didn't, and we had to try to overcome that, and even to this day, I'm sure there's lots of people out there that have never heard of pet screening, and if they did, they may very well think we do dog poop, but I hear less and less of that. And then technology, because I used outsourced talent for the tech, as we started to mature, we wanted to bring some of that intellectual capital inside the organization versus relying on it externally. Because if they're external, you have no control over them. They could easily leave. Not to say an employee can't leave too. Of course, it's a free world, and you most certainly can leave. But being able to know the right time to start becoming more mature technologically and really bringing in your own engineering talent, your own product design, product leads, and that's just I've never done this before, admittedly. I haven't. So figuring that out, probably could have done it sooner than we did, or. So yeah, lots of challenges. But I love it. I absolutely love what we're doing. I love even a challenge is still welcomed because it's a good problem to have challenges. It gives you something to go solve.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what's your long-term vision for the company? Where do you see the business going?
Yeah, well, I mean, from day one, our vision has been to make the world more pet inclusive, no matter where you live, work, play, stay, or live, work, play, or stay. We've since added travel because travel is an important component. We just want to make sure that people have pets have an opportunity to take their pets with them, but also understand that there's a set of rules. They got a set of rules they have to follow. Like that's fair. That's a fair relationship. If you're gonna bring your pet on vacation and stay in someone's furnished unit, and you're at the beach, and they say don't put your wet dog on the couch, that's a very fair relationship for them to ask that of you, and it's a fair relationship for you not to do it. And so we believe pet screening is a platform that allows pet owners, where it's the same dog with the same vaccination, the same owner, but the rules of where they may be going or what they're experiencing could be different based on the circumstance. A vacation unit that's fully furnished would have a different set of rules because it's furnished and it's short term in nature, a couple of days, versus a long term rental is typically unfurnished. They don't care if your wet dog gets on the couch because it's your couch. So that rule doesn't make sense. So how do you make sure you have this platform that allows you to do those things? And that's really what we've started to build. We launched launched into the vacation rental space this year. So we're now in long-term rentals and short-term rentals because people in short-term rentals, the hosts have the same challenges with pets. And then, of course,
Mm.
guests want to bring their pets. And so we know that our platform can help solve for that. And so that's been a new vertical for us. So we really are, kind of moving towards trying to do this in a different type of verticals on the whole live, workplace, care, travel front.
Hmm. And in the long term, do you think you might venture outside of the US?
I look, there are pets everywhere, right? And a dog's a dog's a dog. And people are people. We might have different languages and dialects, but trust me, there are people that don't follow rules in every single country, and then there are people that do follow the rules in every country. So we think that there is opportunity for that. I never want to be big for my britches. That's or get ahead of my ski tips is maybe another way of saying it. I think there'll be opportunity when the time is right. We have a lot to still do here in the US, and I think it would make sense to really feel like we get to a point where we're mature enough where we think that's really spinning well before we venture outside of the US. But I mean, it's not off the table, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And so, in terms of giving yourself advice, if you were to go back those 9 years and, speak to John from the past, what advice would you give yourself in the journey that you're about to embark on?
I would say talk less, listen more. It's a good one. I'm a chatty Cathy. I think being in the legislature taught me to listen a lot more. So that's one. I've had a lot of ideas through the years. I don't know. I always think about solving problems, and a lot of ideas I didn't pursue only later to see that there was some product out. I'm like, oh my God, I thought of that. And so I think there's something to be said about if you have an idea and you're compelled that it's a good one, then you need to act on it. And I don't regret anything about my life. I do want to be clear about that. I think God takes you on interesting. Look, I'm an engineer, turned sales guy, politician in pet tech. I mean, who would have thought, right? I just life is strange, and I think there was a time when I was hesitant for change, and I think now I'm like a change agent. Like I crave it. Like what change? Which is something I've had to grow into. So if I was talking to my younger self, it'd just be like, listen more, don't be afraid to get out of the box, get out of the box. It's okay. You can climb back in if you want to. Those are just a couple of things. I don't really have anything, probably too poetic here, but those are just a couple of things that come to mind.
Love it. John, it's been fantastic speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Thank you for having me. And, there's one last thing I just thought of, if it's okay. I know we're wrapping up. Do good. We do good at Petscreening. We have a program called Down for Pets where we provide grants to people with Down syndrome to go adopt, rescue animals out of shelters, and we obviously provide that grant funding. We created FIDO Alert here in the U.S., which is like we have a thing called Amber Alert. So if a
Yeah,
child goes,
I'm aware of Amber Alerts. Yeah.
yeah. So we created FIDO Alert. So we have, and it's free because my company pays for it. It's not free to Petscreening. We have spent millions of dollars standing up FIDO Alert. I would just tell your listeners, if they have an opportunity to do good with their profits, they should, because it's a way to, it says a lot about your company. So we're doing good at Petscreening, and we'll keep doing it. If we ever stop doing it, I think we've lost our way.
What a great company. Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share, or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.